and gentlemen, this is your main event.
Live from HBF Stadium Festival Hall. Melbourne Pavilion. Not even backstage, we're literally outside.
Was that the best fight card in Australian MMA history?
Call me crazy, but make sure you call me when I'm right.
Be good if the Aussie MMA Instagram page would give us a bit of glow up because we're killing it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. The now legendary Aidan Aguilera, welcome.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
You are like, I know you push this aside and you kind of don't almost even understand why people care, but you are a big part of Australian MMA, and you recently, I mean, we're going to go ahead and assume here that you've announced your retirement.
Yeah, I have.
Because you did it in a very Kobe Bryant, like my letter to basketball style way, which I thought was lovely, but there was no official I retire, I don't think.
I didn't even think of that, to be honest. I feel like I kind of alluded to it for a while, so I feel like it was pretty obvious. But yeah, like I should have just been like, I don't know, like mic drop or something on the end.
It's very weird too, because it's like, and then even when I put up the sort of post, I had to say like retires from professional MMA, because you'll never retire from martial arts, will you?
No, I might take a break here or there, but I'm definitely going to stay involved in some capacity for sure. Like I can't imagine a universe where I don't at least have one finger in the pie.
It's kind of interesting though, because you're not like a fighter, sort of in the sense of like, if I wasn't fighting, I'd be in jail. Like you're a very well spoken, you're a very well educated man. People, I think, would be surprised if you kind of did walk away completely from the sport. Do you feel like you need to be involved because of how much you love it, or because kind of how much you like owe it to the next generation?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think it's more selfish than anything, to be honest. It's like I get a lot of fulfillment out of like helping people and bringing people up. Like I get way more nervous when my guys fight than when I do. And like reflecting on it, I actually get like their wins mean a lot more to me than mine do, at least the last few ones. So I really enjoy the coaching aspect and like helping people up and helping them through it. So it brings me joy. So I think that's why I'll probably stay involved in it.
And at what point, I mean, there was kind of word that you might have retired going into it. Like we kind of all sort of knew like one more out and you were sort of going to walk away. If you won that fight, would you have kept going?
Nah, that would have been perfect. That would have been the happy ending on the end. But no, that was it. Because then it puts me in the spot of like, oh, okay, in title contention again, going through it. My body's breaking down. I'm tired. I'm ready to kind of change the pace a little bit and kind of move on to different pastures.
When did you make this decision? Because I feel like when you came back and you fought Luca, I feel like that's the best you've looked in quite some time. And you really look like, we even talked about it, that you looked like you were like once again gonna go for a run at the title and be one of the best in Australia. So you were looking so sharp. So what was the moment? When was the time that you thought, nah, I'm done here?
To be honest, even after that fight, I was like, oh, it just doesn't feel the same anymore. Like once I jumped down off the cage, I'm like, oh yeah, cool, yeah. Now what? Like, and it's just one of those things where I think I've been doing a lot of reflection and kind of entertaining the idea of getting out for a little while. And it's one of those things where once you start getting that idea in your head, I think it's a real slippery slope and a dangerous game to stay in when you've only got one foot in the door.
Yeah. And I mean, even talking to Jack Becker after that fight, he is still like game as ever to sort of get to the top. And you were at one stage, you wanted to be, UFC champion like everyone. When did that sort of change?
I think it was like a slow, gradual journey I think I got to the point where I realized that me getting signed to the UFC is almost like a statistical impossibility at this point, right? Like just given my age, my record, that kind of deal, it's like, well, am I going to cling to hope that someone gets injured on a card in Melbourne and I'm happen to be in shape and on weight and ready to go, and there's not someone like Harry Webb in the wings waiting, in a better spot to take that. It's like, you got to be realistic with yourself. And it was one of those things where I started kind of thinking about life after fighting, because it's, something that you got to do. And I think it got me to a really healthy place. So I'm ready to be where I'm at right now, which definitely makes it a lot easier.
Was there a specific fight?
No, there was no like one moment where I was like, "Oh, fuck this!" Like I've had that fuck this moment plenty of times, to be honest. But uh, I think I had a real frustrating run, and the wind really got taken out of my wings during COVID in Melbourne because I think I lost 29-30 and half of 31 to lockdowns. You know, those prime years, and I was off a couple of losses too, so I didn't have the chance to rebuild momentum. And then there was just a couple of things that kind of like ribs popped out against Martinez, and I feel like that was my big like if I had beaten Martinez when I was the champion, it would have put me right in a good spot to kind of make a go at the big show. And then the Nolan fight happened, and obviously that was I can't say that the illegal knee is not what ended the fight. It was already going pretty bad, but it's just like a couple of things kind of started building up, and I started having to reassess and honestly think, okay, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to do this? Do I just keep battling through and like slogging it through it and just kind of climbing up the regional scene over and over and over again, or do I start entertaining other ideas?
And what do you do now that the sort of pursuit of fighting is over?
Whatever the fuck I want, which is crazy because I've never really done that. My first fight was 14 years ago, and I've fought at least like probably once a year since then, probably more most years, but there was injuries and stuff that got in the way. But I reckon I'm just going to give it a shot being a normal dude for a little while and just kind of let myself miss the game a little bit, and then I'll kind of figure it out from there. I've got a couple of ideas of some big life changes I want to make. Nothing I can really talk about just yet because obviously I've got a big community behind me and I can't really go and change things up too much without letting them all know. So just trying to get some things in place and figure out from there. But I might transition and become the best female combat sports athlete of all time. I don't know. We'll see.
That's funny. That was the joke I had in my head ready to go.
Like, really?
Yeah. But, like, you obviously take it in, there was no emotional goodbye. There was no anything like that. Did you picture sort of retiring like this kind of when you started? Or was it kind of like I'm going to go out on top, leave my gloves in the cage, have a big final goodbye speech? Or do you kind of like how it sort of ended in the most poetic way that MMA does?
It's very fitting. It's something that it doesn't surprise me. It's not what I wanted, and it wasn't. I didn't go in there thinking, "Oh, all right, I'll just give it a crack," and kind of like, no, I was there to win. I really was there to win. I made plenty of really bad mistakes that I'm pretty dirty at myself for, but that's the game. I can live with that. Yeah, it's one of those. I don't. To be honest, when I started, I wasn't thinking about retirement. Right? You're just a young kid. I'm going to be in the UFC. La, 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 la. But like it doesn't bother me the way it all went down. Obviously, I would have loved to have gone out on top. But what am I going to do? Like go grab the mic off Jack and take his moment? Like it sits fine with me. I'm happy it was him.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. You guys have and will always be sort of tied together. Now, it's kind of weird because you can't exactly be the best of buds because, you did try and sort of ruin each other's careers at some point. In fact, you kind of both did. But like, like you were saying, are you glad it was him? Like, what's it kind of like to have sort of those three fights with Jack and then to kind of have it end like that?
I mean, obviously, I would have much preferred the third fight to be way more competitive. I mean, I got some nice shots in, but it was pretty quick. It makes it a lot easier when you have a lot of respect for someone. Like I respect him as a human, and I like from what I've seen, in the interactions I've had with him, I like what he's about. I think he's an authentic human, just trying to be the best he can be, which is pretty cool to watch. And I rate his skills as a fighter as well. Still think I'll beat him in a kickboxing match any day of the week, but fuck, we're not kickboxers, are we? But no, I'm glad it was him. It was the fitting end of the story. It was one of those things where, I was already thinking about getting out, but fuck, it would have been wrong to get out without finishing off that trilogy and seeing what happened.
Now that it's all kind of said and done, are you happy with your MMA career?
Yes and no. Obviously, heaps of mistakes, heaps of missteps, plenty of things I could have zigged when I zagged. There's definitely an alternate reality where I made the UFC, and I think that's some people might see that as a delusional thing, but if you followed my career and where I was at, especially in the early days, I think I went 3 or 4-0 with 4 first-round knockouts at one point. And then I tend to lose every fight that mattered, and it was one of those things where, obviously you can sit there and be dirty about how it all went down, but I'm very at peace and very grateful with what I have now and where I'm at. And it's who knows where I'd be at if things had gone differently, who fucking knows. But I'm quite happy with the people I have in my life and the life I have. I'm happy with where it's led me.
Is it sort of kind of fitting to sort of look back and realize that it was never actually the skill, it's just a performance on the night sort of thing? Like, well, you zig and you said a zag and all of a sudden your record is this when it could have been that, but deep down you've got the skills to hang with the best in the world.
Yeah, I think most gyms have one of those guys, right? Like a guy that is just an absolute gym beast, but then they have trouble on the night for whatever reason. It's never been obviously the skills matter; they really matter. But we always say in the gym, what truly matters is who you are on that one day. How good a fighter are you on the night, and that's the game, isn't it? And I think one of the upsides to all the losses I've taken over the years is that I've always known that I wanted to coach, and I think I'm going to be a much better coach than I ever was a fighter. And I get to take all those lessons with me and kind of all the dealing with all the hardships and the ego death and all that as a young man coming up through that game. So I think I gained a lot of really valuable experience from the downs as well.
Is there a route in life that, is there ever a bit of you that goes, man, look, I had a good career, had a good like MMA sort of, people know me for this, but there was a point where I was 19, I could have gone the road of being an accountant and made lots of money or something like, is there ever a sort of bit where you have regretted this MMA journey at all?
Yes, absolutely. Like I'll be being dishonest if I said otherwise, especially when things got financially tough. Because I opted for like the hardcore, like full-time training twice a day, 3 times a day kind of route, and I made it work. But there was definitely a couple of times where financially I was struggling really bad. But everything turned out fine. I would, to the young guys coming up, make sure you have a backup plan, because who knows, you might blow your ACL and you're out for 18 months and you're going to, you need income. You need to be able to support yourself. But it's not one of those things where I've never been like, man, I wish I hadn't taken this path. There was just some days I was like, man, I wish my life was a little bit easier, But I think those were in the real lows, the low points. You kind of get that grass is greener kind of mindset when shit hits the fan a little bit sometimes, because it's just easier to kind of wish you were somewhere else not doing it. But I'm very grateful for the lessons I've learned through this and the I guess the tools that I've picked up along the way through the hardships and the struggles and all that, because I feel like I can handle anything that comes now, and I'm happy with who I am and where I'm at. I really am.
So you're going to go just full-time coaching, or is there going to be another job on the side, or?
I'm kind of playing around with a few different ideas, but I might actually for a little while get out of the game for a little bit and just kind of let myself miss it a bit. I've done the same I've been coaching a fair bit, but I've been doing the same thing for like 10 years now, and I'm kind of burnt out with it all, and I'd love to get the passion for it all back. So I don't know, I'll figure it out as I go.
Yeah, you've always been pretty transparent. You're one of the most transparent fighters preparing after losses, whatever it is, and you speak differently to many other guys who almost try to pretend everything is all good, and you're very open when it's not. Is there any sort of advice that you have for younger fighters that might end up going your route, might end up going, like a Jack Jenkins route and making the UFC and all that sort of stuff? Like, is there any advice that you have for those young up and coming fighters that are currently giving it their all?
Oh, so much, so much, but I guess I wrote it in the post. Probably one of the biggest things I picked up, like along the way, that first loss, especially when it's your identity, is like soul crushing. It's so hard to swallow. but it's one of those things where like your value as a human being has no correlation with the results of a sporting contest. It's a fight. It's a sporting contest. There's so many variables. It's like you look at the greatest tennis players of all time. They lose rallies every game. You lose a rally in this sport, you could be on your own. You know, it's just the game. So if it's what you truly want, work hard, stick at it. There are going to be hurdles. It might not be in the cage. You might be going undefeated, but you might also, blow out your back and have to rehab through that. It's just stay the path, surround yourself with good people. Don't listen to your mates that don't know what they're talking about. Appreciate their support, but don't take their opinion into account. Don't buy into your own hype. Just work hard and stay the path. And regardless of where you end up, you're going to have a pretty cool ride.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I was a basketball kid, NBL, even the level under NBL one, it was like, which is like your eternal and stuff for basketball. Like it was my life, it was everything, and I wanted to be that star. And I look back, and that star, no one knows who they are, and it's like some of them are good people, some of them are bad people, but at the end of the day, and I think you're a similar age to me. It's pretty cool when you get to this age and you look back and you realize that none of it matters. Just being a good person does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things. As a young guy, you get this idea of like, oh, you're backstage, you're like you're the shit, you're
Yeah.
5 or whatever, like a fucking chest pumped out, whatever. But it's like no one outside of this room knows who you are. And even the people in here that are watching, half of them are drunk guys that aren't going to remember you tomorrow.
Yeah.
One of those things where just like enjoy the ride, stay present, appreciate it for what it is. Like you're not Conor McGregor, calm the fuck down. Like I think it's one of the good things about this sport is you can make it to a pretty high level, like regionally, and people leave you fuck alone when you go outside, It's like you don't get recognized very often, which is great. Not to say that I ever got to a point of fame or anything like that, but I reckon being famous would probably fucking suck. So
Yeah, it was I remember being in like breakfast radio in Mount Gambier, which is like 28,000 people. It's like 5 hours from Melbourne, 5 hours from Adelaide. And ever since I was a little kid, like I wanted to be famous. And then I quote unquote, like in a way, like got it because everyone knew who you were
yeah,
around town. You were like the big shot. And I was like, oh, this is shit. Like everyone has everyone has an opinion about you, like all that sort of stuff. And even this like media stuff yourself, like you realize that like if you were doing it for the fame, you would have quit a long time ago because it's like it's not worth it. It's actually quite crap. Like you just want to watch fights and someone wants to talk to you about how, hey, when Jack Becker kicked you, and you're like, oh no, I want to just be
yeah.
me now. But unfortunately and fortunately, your career, if I have anything to do with it, will never, like it will always follow you. Are you kind of, I don't know, proud of that you will always be, because as this sport grows, look like and I know what you didn't reach that level, but like an Elvis Sinisic, right? Who still regular dude walks down the street, no one cares. But there's at least someone like me that is like, oh my God, that's the guy. Are you kind of satisfied in a weird way that to somebody your career mattered?
I would like to say no, but in reality, there's still that ego in there that's like, yeah. It's one of those things where I think I don't care what the standard, casual punter thinks, but the guys that really have an informed opinion, that have stayed in the sport and paid attention and, it's like, it feels good to have that, like, oh no, like he was good, like, and then hopefully I have that reputation. Who fucking knows? It's like, it's affirming to be like, okay, I didn't just waste my time. Like I did have some skill, I gave it a good crack. I'd like to think my fights are exciting. I don't think there's many guys that have the same highlight reel that I do. But that's also because I went to film school and I edited my own highlight reel. So
but I think that's a thing that I really wanted you to sort of understand as well is like your retirement mattered. And I feel like that's pretty cool.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's one of those things. If you had caught me 10, 8, 7 years ago, that would have been really, really important to me. And that's not to say, hey, man, like, fuck what you just said. But I think I'm in a healthy place now where it's like, I don't really care that much about what other people think. I just hope that people know that I wasn't the character I was always playing online,
Well, speaking of that, when the career ends, it really sucks. I can't stir up any fights because they're never going to happen again. So I'll have to just be nice here. But like when it comes to, the quote unquote the character, like, it's you, but it's you turned up to 11 or whatever it is. With guys like Martinez and Jack Becker, even when you retire, does that immediately like all go away and everyone's friends?
Now that I have more time, I'm gonna bully David more. Like there's no way. That's never stopping. That's never stopping. Like, how could I've got to win somehow? So, like, hopefully, I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, it's that I can't stop now. I'm too deep in.
Mate, before I do let you go, because you probably want to get away from MMA forever. Does that mean we'll start to see like, less MMA pictures, more just like you having a cocktail and hanging out with friends, and are you going to enjoy life a bit more?
I definitely will try to enjoy life a bit more. Like, I think I've drank once this year, but like, I don't think my social media is going to change too much. I only really use that as a marketing tool for MMA, and for the most part, anyway. Like, I would love to use it a bit less now, which would be pretty nice. I'm definitely going to try and enjoy life, but I'm not going to be getting out of shape or anything like that. I don't think my girlfriend will let me. But I'll still be around. My head will pop up here and there. Don't worry.
So you still train, like still do jiu-jitsu and
Oh,
stuff to keep
I'll
fit?
never stop training. I'll never stop
Yeah.
training. I'll probably take a little break for a couple of months soonish and just kind of let myself miss it a bit. But I'm definitely going to turn back up. Like like, and who knows? Maybe in a couple of years I'll get bored and come back for one more, or have a kickboxing fight or some shit. Who fucking knows? I don't know.
Oh, you guys, trust me, the way Australian MMA is going, it's going to be you and Jack Becker doing like a boxing match when you're both like 45 or 50.
I would actually be so down for that as long as there's no drug testing. Because now that I'm not competing anymore,
Yeah, because the sport's so clean.
at least it's like I can live with myself now, and now my neck's going to get real big, and I'm going to get out.
Just a couple more, mate, and then I will let you ride off into the
Take your
sunset.
time, man.
But from when you first started your sort of journey in 2004 to now, 20 years later, how much has the sport of MMA changed?
Oh, so much. Well, when I started, there was no cages in Victoria. So my first like 5 or 6 fights were in a ring. You probably had the same deal in
Yeah,
Perth. Right?
yeah.
Like, say banned it because of some bashing at the front of a club or something. But my first fight had soccer kicks. My very first fight. The level, like the amateur level, is insane now. Like, we wouldn't even be talking if I had the skills I had when I started, and I was at now. Like, I would have like fucking 1 in 14 or something. Like, these guys are good now. Like, some of these amateurs coming up are very good. Like, and it's so cool to see. It's like the sport's grown massively. Like, people didn't even know what the UFC was when
Mm,
I started trying to explain what I did. I just told people I did kickboxing.
mm.
Like, no one knew what MMA was. Like, because the UFC wasn't even like really a thing over here, because I don't think they even had the pay-per-view showing for a fair while.
Yeah,
So
man.
it's grown so much. It's gotten to such a good spot, and I think like per capita we are one of the like international powerhouses. The amount of talent we have coming up, and the guys going through the UFC and all that. I think it's just like we hold our own in the Olympics, even though we're a small nation. We're going to do the same in fighting for sure. It's really cool to see, and hopefully I'm going to stay involved and help bring some of these new guys up, and that way I can leech off them, and pretend I've achieved something.
Same. And and finally, mate, before I let you go, I've never actually gotten to do this one, but it is now all said and done. How do you think Aidan Aguilera is remembered and will be remembered in mixed martial arts?
I think consistently inconsistent, real mouthy online, but hopefully, and I get the vibe that got a pretty good reputation of being a decent guy.
Awesome, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure you helping me stir shit up. It has been so much fun. You're a big part of this show, whether you like it or not. And yeah, hopefully stay in touch, and hopefully you stay, if you are in the sport, you get into commentating, or I would really encourage you to have your own, like very similar to what Callum Potter does with podcasts. I really do. I think you got a great mind for it. You're very articulate, and you can say whatever you want because not too many people can stand up to you. So I would please stay in the sport somewhat, at least with your opinions. It was heartbreaking to see you lose, but inspiring to see your career. So thank you for all your time and all the support you've given me.
Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate you, mate. And let's not stop stirring shit, especially now that I don't have to fight these guys.
Oh,
Let's turn it up.
geez. If we released our messages. All right, brother. I will let you go and I'll see you next time.
See you, mate.
Fuel the fight with Australian-made MMA-inspired streetwear and support the next generation of MMA superstars. Delivering unprecedented support to the Aussie MMA scene, support PRP Global on their journey. 100% of profits go to the fighters. Check PRP Global out today.